So you understand what you're coming into, and then you're asking a lot of questions. You're doing this audit. You're being super curious. You're honoring the past leader, also honoring things that have brought us to this point in the culture that we want to make sure that we hold on to. And then you kind of get up to this point where you're starting to shift towards the new future. You start thinking about a new vision. In the book, you talk about there's a point where you have to cast a compelling new vision. So how do you know when you're at that moment, and how do you go about that process?
Yeah, I think everything you've done prior to that is building to that moment, right? It's these little hints. I'm adding some seasoning as I'm talking about where I'm going or where we're going. Like I'm constantly, and even in that we talk about honor. Well, when you pick what you honor, you're showing and celebrating what we want in the future. You're showing and celebrating the values that we believe in, the culture we believe in, the system we believe in. And you're doing that almost covertly, right? I'm not just constantly going, hey guys, and this is what we're all about. Like, no, the way you handled that client is spectacular. Did you guys see how she said this to them? That is the kind of leaders we want to be. That's the kind of thing this place is all about. Then when you start casting a compelling vision, the key to the compelling part is it's got to be exciting, and it's got to be one of those things that you go, yeah, we're better if we do that, right? If you cast a vision, if you're casting vision and it's not better than where they think they've been, or it's not really exciting for them, that's not really compelling, right? And so part of that hard work, that heavy lifting is going back to that really question. Is this better really? Like, ask yourself that question as you're building to that point. When I took over at Catalyst, that was a big part. I had stepped in for about 3 months before I really even said, this is where I think we're going to go, or this is where I think. But even when I did that, the expectations that I laid on the team were all about culture. They were all about how we're going to treat people. They were all about how we're going to treat our clients, how we're going to serve everybody with everything we had. And part of doing that, Daniel, is to go, you got to decide if you can be a part of this. I remember my boss for years, Andy Stanley, used to say that healthy leaders won't stay in an unhealthy organization. And that always made sense to me, right? Like I get that. But then he would say that unhealthy leaders won't stay in a healthy organization. And I remember thinking, why would that be the case? Until you start recognizing that if a leader doesn't want to change, if a leader likes the past, if the leader is bought into the last leader and not you, and they don't want to be told every day when they come to work, you can't act like that, you can't treat people like that, you can't say those things, why would they want to stay if they're not willing to change, right? So it made more sense to me. And as you step in and lead something you didn't start, that's going to be a real litmus test for whether or not somebody is going to be a team player, they're going to be a part, and they're going to get on board with that new compelling vision. And so you see how all of this kind of plays together. You really are having to get in the weeds a little bit and go, how are we really? And now that I know where we're at, that actually helps your vision, because if you know that trust has been an issue, if your compelling vision doesn't have an answer to fixing the trust problem, then you've missed the boat on that conversation.
I want to talk more about this vision piece. Vision is so critical. And we talk about this a lot in EntreLeadership. I love vision. And for me, it's been a double-edged sword, because it's one of the things that I'm most naturally gifted with. If there's one thing I'm great at as a leader, it would be just the ability to see the future. And believe me, there's a lot of things I suck at. So there's plenty of room for Tardy to improve. But vision is just something I've never had to. It's like I can just see things clearly, and they're not always the best things. But I just have vision out into the future. And I'm a salesperson, and this is where I can get into trouble. Is I can see clearly what I feel like we should do, and then I start selling the team on, okay, we're going this direction. And the team will follow because of my persuasive skills when they didn't necessarily feel like they had created and crafted that vision with me. So, earlier you were talking about making sure everybody's going together. How do leaders know when to say, okay, I'm the captain of the ship and I am setting our heading, and this is not a thing we're going to vote on? And then what pieces of that do need to have everybody's input? And again, what you said, I love it. It's you haven't pre-decided and you're checking the collaboration box. You're genuinely listening to the team and asking, where do you guys think we should go? How do we balance that tension?
Yeah. It's a good question, because there's a discernment piece to that too, right? Because there are a lot of people, like I would fall in the camp of, I tend to collaborate almost too much sometimes, right? There are times that the team needs me just to put my foot down and go, nope, this is the decision. This is where we're going. That's not as natural for me. On the right path assessment, I'm off the charts, like compassionate. And so when it comes to black and white or gray, I don't have black and white. I'm all gray. I know that about myself. I know that I want to get consensus. But as I matured as a leader, I'm constantly recognizing and paying attention to, there are times the team just needs me to lead. They don't need to collaborate. They don't know what the answer is. This isn't their skill set. And that's another problem is you got to be real. Again, discernment is so key because if you've got team members that you're inviting into that conversation who aren't mature enough to handle when you go a different direction than what their opinion was, that what you invited them to say, that's leadership, right? I've got to be able to lead that person because their feelings are going to be hurt because I actually collaborated with them and I went a different direction, right? But here's the thing about emotional intelligence. We've been talking about this, Daniel, a lot. Emotionally intelligent leaders does not mean that you're going to always do what everybody wants. It means that they're going to handle that situation in a way that recognizes the emotional toll of the decision. So in other words, if I as a leader hear everything, I discern it, I cast a vision, this is where I feel like we're supposed to go, and it's counter to what one or two of my teammates had predicted or said, then part of my job as an EQ, as a strong, emotionally intelligent leader, is to recognize that in those leaders that this is going to take a withdrawal from them, that this is going to be something that I just have to say out loud and go, hey, Steve, I just want to say thanks for your input. Here's all the reasons I feel like this is the direction we're going to go. So I know this is going to be a little tricky for you. If you have any questions, if you want to walk through why I made the decision, think about that as a leader. If your leader did that versus just going 180 degrees without telling you they're moving on, what happens in those situations is all those leaders, oftentimes they think they're motivating and I'm moving you down, just making decisions and we're rolling. What they're actually doing is creating discord, and they're creating a recognition of going, do they even know what we're talking about? Like, what are they doing? Like, what, it's just bringing people with you, even when it's not the decision they would have made. And that's where strong emotionally intelligent leaders come into play, is going, hey, I recognize the toll that this is going to take on our relationship, but I believe it was worth the toll that I'm taking because this is a better outcome.